heart like a child, you wanna keep it, but your shiny eyes reveal the simple truth.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
So why is it that you like sim racing? Is it because you like a certain driver and you like how quick he is? Do you want to become that style of driver? Do you want to reach the very top of the level that you can? Do you just enjoy a certain style of racing and you want to indulge yourself even more than what racing can be offered in different circles? Are you looking at every which way to try and entertain yourself? No matter which way you look at the question that you ask, one thing that comes up as a result, and that is that you find sim racing fun. This is for fun. This is racing at its best, some may say, where there's nothing on the line except one thing: pride. You want the pride of winning another race, and every driver wants to be at that point. Here today, I think a lot of drivers want to prove themselves to be fast and want to prove themselves to be fun here in a December, which traditionally is the curtain ender for a year to gear up for what will be a brand new decade, an exciting decade of sim racing here on World Pro Racing. We are in these wonderful Tatuus F4 vehicles, and we are here at the wonderful Adria circuit built by Engineering Consult for this. Some brilliant racing here on World Pro Racing. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching around the world. It's Jake Sperry here in the commentary box, joined alongside, as ever, by Caitlin Penny. In the broadcast on the cameras, Justin Mifsud is there for us. Adrian Fagayo, our race director, and our chief steward for today, George Muscat. But Caitlin, we're in the middle of practice at the moment, 15 minutes away from the start of qualification, and Formula 4 often finds itself as the gateway into the open wheel career. You talk about how karting gets yourself up into the F4 seat. Very much when you look at this vehicle in terms of its complexity and its difficulty, it's very much like a Red Bull soapbox on wheels. You have to make sure that you know how to pilot a car like this to make sure you get the best out of it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jake. It totally is. Of course, quite low downforce for a single-seater because of these small wings, but that doesn't really matter because it's so light. It still corners like a flea, and because it's light as well, it means you can race. You can race closer than you would be able to in a lot of other single-seaters and other types of race car, and that's why it's a great place to start for youngsters because they can learn that racecraft at a young level in a car that feels a lot more like a race car than a go-kart would. But anyway, fantastic to see these drivers taking the merit onto the circuit, even though this isn't a junior category of anything. It's just a load of fun. And I've been watching this Adria circuit with interest because I actually haven't commentated a race here before, although I reckon it's underrated looking at the layout. It's got pretty much everything I'd hope for in a circuit. It's unforgiving in places, it's got hairpins, it's got chicanes, it's got a long straight connecting the final corner and the first corner. If you look at the track map as well, it just looks exciting at first glance. And to be honest, it's just the kind of track that suits these Formula 4 cars as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing them going racing. Going to be a good one.
Track here stands at 2.7 kilometers, just a shade under 1.7 miles. It's 17 turns, but a lot of turns very much flow into each other. Main overtaking opportunities, you've got turn 1 and 2, which seems to be the big place to go and make the moves. You can get it done up into 4. Maybe if you're brave, you can get it done at 7, get it done at 9, get it done at 14 and 16. But you have to be brave to go out there and make those style of overtakes. And this is another different challenge for these drivers because this is a fun race. These drivers won't necessarily here, Caitlin, today have the understanding of who their opponents are. When you look at a championship, for example, the difference is this. You're in a championship race, you know who your rivals are, you build up that rapport and that mental report card on how does this driver drive, how does this driver go out and attack the track, how does this driver do X, Y, and Z. They don't have that luxury today. They learn on the fly through practice, through qualifying, and through the race. And yes, maybe they've run into each other 1 or 2 times before in the past. It will be limited knowledge today on how they approach every other driver.
That's a very good point, actually, because both of the mods we're using today, the car mod and the track mod, are very new. They weren't released that long ago at all, meaning, of course, that I can pretty much guarantee that these drivers have never raced this combination before, or even driven this combination before this event format was announced. And that does mean it's going to be all about who can learn the track the fastest as well. Of course, some of these drivers would have done some practice leading up to today. A lot of them won't be seeing it for the first time right now, although yeah, still their experience will be very limited with it, so they're going to have to learn it. They're going to have to see if it suits them, and if it doesn't, make changes to the setup or the driving style until it does suit them. And really, it's going to be a case of who has the best muscle memory today.
And it's all about who is the best at stringing together good laps. At the moment in practice, Paul August Lana, who is at the top. Danny Robbins has immediately just jumped up into second position right now, with third Ben Hamlet standing there with Jason Muscat in fourth. But of course, practice doesn't mean much in terms of the way that this race is run. There's still a good 10 minutes left of practice before we get ourselves looking over towards qualifying. But the important thing to remember here, Caitlin, is that practice does hold itself its own advantage. Some drivers may put the proverbial bag of sand underneath their feet and decide that they want to weigh their car down a little more or go slower, just to give other people maybe a sense of enlightenment, of opportunity, that they are quicker than they think they are. Sometimes this is all about psychology in practice, and not necessarily, in sim racing terms, about finding the performance, finding the development of the driver.
So, I think since we've still got 10 minutes of practice left, that we should have a look at this Adria circuit and see a driver going around in anger. What do you say?
I say go for it. I'm on board with Danny Robbins
Sure,
here in second position. And Caitlin, I'll give you the floor. Here's a lap around this wonderful Adria Raceway circuit.
So as you say, we're on board with Danny Robbins, who's currently second in the order. He's heading up to turn one. This is known... Oh, he's off. Okay, never mind. Let's have a look instead at the driver who was immediately... Actually, never mind. I think we should look for another driver about to cross the line. Terence Grech is currently seventh. He crosses the line and goes onto a lap. Mara, we can see turn one. This is known as Ramata, and it curves around to the left. Almost two apexes. You'd be forgiven for thinking it's double apexed, although realistically, you want to clip the first apex, miss the second, because that's where you want to be putting the power down. Now we're into the Curvanella, which is another hairpin. Ran a little bit wide there, did Grech, but managed to keep it on the road, and still got a fairly good exit out of that, I think. We've now got Tolentino, which of course we know means hairpin, and that is the third hairpin of the lap, going to the right before a short blast up to the Variante Po. This is a chicane which is always taken a little bit slower than you expect it to be, because it looks like it's going to be a real flick, but it's a bit deceptive. Up through Quadra 2. We've been through Quadra 1 already. That's the second corner in the chicane. And then Delgado is at the top of the hill, always gets taken out by another car before heading to the Della Fonte, which is yet another hairpin to end the lap. A lot of hairpins do mean that we may have a lot of overtaking opportunities, and it also means that the drivers really have to keep their cool and really have to focus on their rhythm, because it's easy to get out of that rhythm.
Talking of drivers finding their rhythm, Jason Muscat is one of them who's moved up into second position. His time was 4,000 short of Paul August Lana in the practice session that we've got going on at the moment. So that's a really big indicator on who is knocking about. Three drivers split by a tenth of a second. The entire field split by 1.8. It is a small track, but it is, of course, with the stop-start nature that this track has and the amount of chicanes it has, and very, very fiddly, tricky chicanes at that as well, Caitlin. This is a track where you need a lot of skill to go out there and really extract the time. Time can be locked off at 3-4 tenths of a second a corner if you're not too careful.
This looks like exactly the kind of track I would love to be a spectator at, because of all the overtaking opportunities, because of just how difficult it looks, how much the corners appear to deceive you. But anyway, relatively short track as well, and that's a good thing, because that means the drivers are going to get more laps in. It means that traffic may come into play, especially in qualifying, especially since we have quite a packed grid here. 18 drivers is pretty good for a Formula 4 race, and at a track that only takes 1 minute 14.3 when you do it absolutely perfectly. That's really not much track to go around. So I think in qualifying it's going to be all about track positioning as well, making sure that you don't have the turbulent air from another car washing over your aerodynamics and spoiling your run. And you're also going to have to be careful about not running into anyone, because well, these cars are solid. You can't exactly drive through them. So anyway, that's gonna matter in qualifying and the race. Although the drivers getting the hang of it so far. We've actually got the top three now within a tenth of a second of each other.
They're all around the 114.3, 114.4 margin. Lana, Muscat, Robbins, your top three at the moment. But you look a little bit further down the order, you're talking about drivers within a second, and that, for the time being here in practice, is the top 12. Marco Holtzman is the driver who holds himself on that 1 second bubble. He's done 11 laps of current in practice. The driver who's done the most amount of time is someone who's just pulled off back into the garage, and that is Tomasz Pastewko in the 9th position right now. He's done 22 technically laps around this track, finds himself in 9th position right now. And you talk about differences, Danny Robbins, well, he's only just gone on to his 13th lap around the circuit. So drivers finding a little bit more, drivers finding a little bit less, so to speak.
A lot of the time, more isn't necessarily better, because you need to make sure you don't tire yourself out or lose concentration before qualifying. I personally like to do about 10 laps in a row myself, and then have a little break, probably about 10 to 15 minutes of a break, and then go out again. That tends to be my strategy every time I do a practice session about this long. Although, of course, it does vary between the drivers, different people like doing it in different ways, and I suppose more laps does mean you have more track experience. Herman Stocci now also reaching 22 laps as he exits the pits. That's not technically 22 laps, because unlike other simulators, rFactor 2 does actually register when you cross the line and then escape to the pits. That does count as a lap, so you don't actually need to do the full lap for it to count as a lap, but still that will be probably about 18 or 19 laps that he's done, and that's really not a bad number, especially for a practice session of this length. And the fewest laps so far has actually been set by Filippo Canio, and that's surprising since he's down in 18th position at the minute. So if anyone, I'd say that Canio needs to put in the most practice at this point in time to elevate him further up the order.
Well, Caneo has been struggling a little bit with technical issues, so he'll be hoping to get those fixed before the time he gets himself out on track. But, you know, talking about all this practice, how much time you put in terms of practicing a car, actually reminds me of a story that I heard over the past week as Caneo goes off at the big difficult chicane and resets it back to the pit garage. It was about a driver called Mac Backham, and he had himself over the last week a 3-lap race he was practicing for, and he put a grand total of 30 hours worth of time, effort and practice in for a 3-lap race. That 3-lap race, though, that was the track known as the Nürburgring, but that's a different point entirely. But Caitlin, you start looking at this, 3 minutes to go before qualifying. You start practicing the final few things that you need. Maybe in this practice session, you find yourself a bit of clear track out there on a straight. You pull it over to one side and you go out there and practice a race start.
Sure, yeah, I often do that when I'm practicing. You are allowed to do that on the start-finish lines. The other drivers, so most of the drivers will go over to the dirtier side of the grid, the left-hand side, if they're going to practice starts. Others elected to do it from the pit lane so that they don't cause yellow flags and potentially annoy other drivers, and that's completely valid as well. Although the pit lane not quite as rubbered in as these circuits, so it doesn't quite feel like a normal race start. Although I don't think the difference will feel like much in these F4 cars because of the power to weight ratio. But whatever the case, yeah, that's definitely a strategy you'll see drivers employing in qualifying. Others will be focusing on race stinting now, knowing that their qualifying pace is adequate. Although I think at this point in time, I would definitely be focusing on qualifying pace, since that's coming up in under 2 minutes.
Certainly is coming up in under 2 minutes time. So we'll see who finds themselves at the top of qualifying once it gets itself underway. But this is a very, very tight and technical track. It is tough to get working correctly, so qualifying may just be about a case of least mistakes finds victory. And you look at maybe a track with 16 corners on it, say maybe at best or at worst, you need to get one corner incorrect. You have a one-corner allowance, Caitlin, to still put together a really good lap time.
Indeed, of course, with a track this short, you do have a slight advantage in qualifying. because of course you get more laps than you would do at a longer circuit like some of the others we race at with World Pro Racing. Although still, it's important not to make too many mistakes, because if you ruin more than one lap, that's when it really starts to hurt you, and that's when you can really start to feel the clock ticking down and possibly even start to panic a bit. So yeah, it's a difficult circuit by the looks of it. Of course, hairpins, they do tend to be quite simple corners in the race. Although in qualifying, when you're pushing it, you can just slightly misjudge the braking zone, just slightly brake too late, and then there's really no stopping the car, and off you go into the grass. And that happens in qualifying, especially when drivers are going for it, and when it really truly matters. So anyway, out onto the track again goes Terence Grech, I've noticed, and that's very interesting since he's only got 20 seconds left in the session, and he's going to be greeted by the checkered flag when he comes around. But oh well, and I believe qualifying is going to start very, very shortly.
That it is. Ambient temperature, so air temp 11 degrees C. Track temperature out there today is 25 degrees, so not bad in terms of track temp. It's all about getting those very, very cold tyres up to temperature. They will have that ability to go and get a good qualifying time in, as practice will bring itself just to a close right about now as they get themselves ready. Gear up for qualifying. Worth noting that every driver was within 2 seconds in practice, so that bodes well for how close things are going to be during the race. So we'll keep that in mind in terms of whose times are going to be knocking on the door of quick pace and getting faster and faster as racing goes on. But qualifying about to get itself ready and waiting at this point in time. I just have noticed once again that one Ben Hamlet is starting in the middle of the race section, away from everybody else. So it was an issue that he had in practice. It's something that I don't quite know why it's happening or what's happening, but ultimately he'll get half a lap's advantage over everybody else.
I suppose so. That is a slight advantage for him, because of course he's closer to the start line. Although I know that at some tracks you have to do the full formation lap before the game starts registering it. So I'm not sure if it's going to do that, or if it's going to register his lap as soon as he crosses the start-finish line. I'm sure we're about to see. Whichever the case, that's a little bit of a weird glitch. I expect it's probably because we may have more people in the server than expected. I'm not entirely sure about that one. I just hope that there are no incidents in qualifying with drivers getting caught out by his stopped car when he is in the pits, in inverted commas. But anyway, onto a lap he goes. I believe he's going to be the first driver onto a flying lap, and it didn't count, so he's going to have to do the full length of the lap before he gets to go into a hot lap. That's disappointing for him. It's definitely not an advantage. It's a
big disadvantage.
Big disadvantage, yeah, because now he's going to have half a lap worse tyres than everyone else.
Well, sometimes life gives you lemons, and not quite the lemons that you wanted, and you wish that you transferred them for brand new lemons. But other drivers out on track will be looking to try and get themselves some times underway. Talk about drivers who have put their best foot forwards in practice. Jason Muscat is one of them. Into turn one in the full layout of the circuit. You can see there are some white dotted lines that indicate a different layout of the track. They don't have to worry about that, but they do have the long run all the way up to turn number 3 and now into turn 4 on the brakes, 180 degrees. You put the power down as early as you possibly can through that left-hand corner, but you do have to be patient, wait so that the car doesn't start spinning up with the torque that vehicles have. On the brakes back down into turn number 6. So I'll tell you what this circuit does remind me of here, this North Italian track. It does remind me, Caitlin, of a Barber Motorsports Park, say in Birmingham, Alabama.
To an extent, yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, I think Barber has a little bit more elevation change and a couple more fiddly corners that don't really know quite where they're going. But Anyway, never mind. Whatever the case, we do still have 17 and a half minutes of qualifying. No one's yet set a fast lap. Oh, and as I say that, we get the first benchmarks. Tomasz Wach has the benchmark so far. It is a 1:14.785. So we know people can go faster than that. Jason Muscat putting his time second, 1:14.850. Paul August Lanay, sorry. I'm being told it's pronounced Lanay anyway. I'm not entirely sure if I'm getting it right. Hopefully I am. He is currently in third. Oh wait, no, because Martin Antol has gone to the top. 114.724 on his first flying lap. So that's the benchmark now. In practice, we saw people going about 0.3 of a second faster than that. But whatever the case, 600ths of a second, separating the top two at present, and now Ben Hamlet goes to the top with a 1:14.607.
Yep, good time from him, a 10th clear of everybody else in the field, so really put himself a good lap together as he looked to go through. So your top five at the moment: Hamlet, Antol, Vach, Muscat, and Lana is your top five. Gret in 6th position, Bolko 7th, Caneo 8th, there's Pari in 9th, and Herman Stocci rounding out the top 10 at the moment. Does move up to 3rd on a 1:14.770 as Jason Muscat finds himself at the top. 1:14.600, 7,000 says he's clear at the moment. But the good thing to remember about a track like this is it does take a couple laps with 18 vehicles running around it to get that track rubbed in, to get the tyres up to temperature, to really go out there and push and showcase just where the good laps are going to be in this, a 20-minute qualifying session.
Paul August Lanay now up into 3rd position, so jumps ahead of Martin Antol. Antol did have P1 briefly, although the times are tumbling in the early stages here. So Lanay now in 3rd position, 1:40.682. And now Ben Hamlet improves his time significantly, 1:14.276. That's the fastest lap time we've seen all day. It's 0.3 of a second faster than anyone else in the session so far. So we've got some improvement to be doing.
There are improvements out there for a lot of drivers. And of course, in the practice before, official practice, it was Ben Hamlet who was showing that he had that sort of pace, a 14.2 underneath his bonnet. As up goes Tomasz Wach. He goes up into 2nd position then on a very, very good time. It was a 1:14.5, so gap down to 2.5 of a second, a 1/4 of a second then at the top of the field. Paul August Lana, though, decides he wants to move up on a 1:14.343, so 2/3 of a second he finds himself behind. That's not much at all in terms of the way of things, as Terence Gretsch has found the Armco barrier at turn number 11 out on track. It was through that section, the right with the two lefts, and he found himself in the Armco, and he's got to sit, wait, reset, and get back out again.
Some of these drivers here are doing 3 or 4 hot laps. That's surprising. I'd have thought that with a Slicks and Wings single-seater, you'd only do 1 or 2 in a row. But then again, I've never raced this car in anger, so I can't say for certain. Terence Gretsch is back on the track. That's the beauty of sim racing, of course. You don't really have to worry about having accidents. Of course, it's never good in the race, and in the race you do lose points because there is no going back out on track again if you retire on the spot. However, in qualifying, it doesn't matter quite so much. Meanwhile, Jason Muscat has just gone off into the gravel while trying to recover to the pit lane. Quite a tight pit lane there, but anyway, again, not going to affect him much. He's just going to reset everything and go back out on track just as his opponents are doing around him.
Well, you've got to be absolutely on it through every corner, and drivers who do get it wrong, well, they are going to waste very valuable and precious time, because for every time you reset that vehicle, it takes another minute and a bit to get back out on track, get back around the circuit, and to then put in a flying lap. So you're looking at drivers who are trying to put good laps together. There are difference makers out there. Someone like Thomas Pasefko has only put 2 registered laps in. Someone like Nathan Vella, maybe towards the back of the field in dead last, 1.8 off of pole right now, has put a representative 6 on the board. So at the moment, you really need to be just careful about how many times you can sit there and make mistakes out there on the surface, because I think every driver out there knows that they need to get a good lap, and a good lap very, very quickly done, as Thomas Vark makes his way over the line at the moment. Currently in third position, no improvements on his time over that last lap.
Well, that was an outlap, so he's on his first flying lap this run now. Last time around, he did three flying laps in a row and then escaped back to the pits. So he's probably going for it again. Of course, as you say, currently P3, although the driver ahead of him, Paul August Lana, is also just about to start a lap. So whatever he does now, he has to be careful and understand that it may not be representative right until the end. So we're heading up towards the difficult fiddly chicane. Ben Hamlet, I think, is also actually, I think he's on an out lap, so I think he's just about to start another one. Nope, that was a new lap, and it was a new fastest lap. It was a 1:14.206 from Ben Hamlet. My apologies. He's actually done 5 flying laps in a row now, and he's getting quicker. So just shows that tyre wear not as much of a problem as I thought it would be. Now we can see what Thomas Wach is going to do. Pulls over to the right hand side of the track, a little bit sharper than I would have thought, and does not improve. He actually lost out by about 4, almost 5/10 of a second there on that lap. So he's going to go for it again and try to improve on whatever he got wrong last time around.
Well, all the drivers are looking at improvement as they try and jump up order. Danny Robbins is one who moves up into third position, 1:14.424. He'll be happy with that at the moment. Your top 6 split by 0.4 of a second. Your top 12 split by 1 second at the moment, as Lana does not find improvements in second position. Right now, over the line goes Jason Muscat, currently in 6th place at the moment on a 1:14.6 dead, and ultimately does not get himself any improvement out there on track for the time being. But it is about every driver out there trying to find a bit of improvement, as Terence Gresh, he finds himself an improvement. So Grech up into 8th place then on a 1:14.7, and suddenly Stocci goes 3rd.
Stocci there jumped up from, well, he was in 4th, although his time was certainly not quite as competitive as that, 1:14.360, and now Thomas Vach there jumps up into P4. So Danny Robbins just lost 2 positions on that last lap there, with Stocci and Vach both jumping ahead of him. Robbins is actually setting up for another flying lap. He's got a few corners left to go on this one, because he's just down at Tolentino there. Although I expect him to be really pushing on his next flying lap. Same goes for Jason Muscat, who is about to complete another lap. He's in 6th position. Got a slight slipstream from the car ahead as well, and that can affect you in a Formula 4 car. He does improve there, although stays 6th for the time being. And now I'm looking back at the other drivers who are improving around him. I think Thomas Vach there did improve on his last time. Yes, he did, although missed out on jumping back ahead of Stocci by 1,000th of a second. Here he goes for his 3rd flying lap in a row. This is the one that could be the most important here.
Well, every driver knows that every lap can be important. The top 6 are split by 2 and a bit more tenths of a second. Vach finds himself top of the timing stands, 1:14 flat. Hello! Ben Hamlet gets disposed of for the first time in qualifying, and that's with 8 minutes to go in this qualifying session. And guess who was the driver watching Vach behind? It was going to be one Ben Hamlet, if it wasn't for one vehicle in the middle of all of that as well. So that's going to be very, very interesting. Hamlet was watching Thomas Vach's lap and was seeing where he was finding that time. And all of a sudden, I think every driver's just seen that Vach wants a pole position. Not a guarantee of a victory, a pole position, but as it is so often when it comes to racing, it gives you the best possible chance of victory.
So nearly the first driver into the 113s. I definitely think 113s are possible, although very, very difficult, of course. It's difficult to improve on a time like that from Tomasz Wach, although I think there's several drivers who do have the pace to do it. Hamlet maybe, possibly Lane, possibly Stocci. Who knows? There could be other drivers getting involved as well. I've got my eye as well on Super League race winner Jason Muscat in all of this. Crossing the start-finish line for another time is Ben Hamlet, and he's actually going onto a flying lap with this one, so that last one was not a representative time. However, Herman Stocci is on a representative lap time this time around. Gets it over the curb, slightly over the white line. I don't think that will matter too much. And now Stocci comes across, and that was down on his time by about 0.3 of a second, so possibly a slight mistake on that last lap, and he's actually made another mistake through turn 1 there, getting it a bit sideways. That's probably going to cost him about 0.2 of a second, and I think his next lap might be a little bit butchered as well.
Well, that's never good. If you get it wrong on one lap, you go on to the next one, you immediately get it wrong. It sets you out of a rhythm, but does find you in improvement. 6.5 minutes, though, left to go in qualifying. Wach leads it as we just do see a jump up because Terence Grech has moved up into 7th position on a 1:14.5. The only 1:14.5 in the field at the moment, but will be very, very pleased with that. Wach ahead of Hamlet, Lana in 3rd, Stocci 4th, Muscat 5th, Robin 6th, Grech 7th, Antol, who was right at the top, had the fastest time for a time being. That time now only good enough for 8th place. Caneo in 9th, and Pasefko rounds out the top 10. You look at the other drivers, Ignacio in 11th, Bolko in 12th, Parry 13th, Holtzman 14th, Mifsud in 15th, Bagaya in 16th place. Then it's Nathan Vella and Miguel Enriquez rounding out the 18 at the moment. All 18 within 2 seconds. The top 17 split by just 1.5 seconds at the moment. So anything's subject to change at the moment as Lana moves up into 2nd. He's just 100th off of what he needs.
Less than that, 0.009 of a second separate Wach from Lane there. That was very, very close. And Lane there would have thought he was on for pole right up until he crossed the start-finish line. That was so close. So I told you that so many drivers can still challenge for this. Lane, of course, is definitely one of them. He is. That was only his first flying lap of this run, and he does tend to go for 2 or 3 at once. So I reckon he's going to be continuing to push now. What about Ben Hamlet? He's about to cross the start-finish line, and no improvement for Hamlet. He was 0.5 seconds down, so a mistake on that last lap. Although a good line through turn 1, very much hooking it up over the curb on the inside. Tomasz Wach, I think, is also on a quick lap as Lana's backed out of it. So Lana has backed out of the lap, although does appear to be going for another fast one. You can tell by the way he's putting the power down out of that last corner there. Mateo Bolko there just jumps up into the top 10 for the first time today. I think he's been running around the 13-14 mark pretty much the whole way through, but that's the first time since the very start of the session that he's got into the top 10, and not a bad lap either, within 8.5 of a second of the leaders, and the leaders continue to fight in terms of lap times.
Danny Robbins, through all of that, moved himself up into 4th position, just on a 1:14.330. Finds himself almost 1/4 of a second behind Tomasz Wach at the front. Paul August Lana will be out on an outlap at this point in time, trying to get heat into the tyres, get something working together. If you're out there on track now, you're starting to find the pace that improves the times, that gets you the result that you hoped to be looking for at the moment. Anything can happen in the remaining 3 minutes of qualifying. We can see a massive shift in the momentum, especially when you got the top 8 split by 0.5 seconds. And just like that, Jose Ignacio moving up into 9th place on a 1:14.8, 0.7 of a second off the pole, but 9th, very good time for Jose.
Yeah, not bad, big improvement, just over 0.7 of a second off the lead scrap as it is. In terms of the leaders, I think that Hamlet, Lana and Vuk may all be on faster laps here. Oh, Lana, big mistake, so that's ruined that for him. He's going to have to go back to the pits with this one, I expect. No, he's going to set up for another one. That's interesting, so he's going for another one. Vuk, appears to be held up a little bit, although may gain advantage from the slipstream. No improvement. He was 8/10 off, so big disadvantage on that last time. And a lot of that would have been because of the car directly in front of him. Hamlet about to come across the line again. Improvement for him, but stays third. Although now the top three is separated by just 0.03 of a second. That's very close. And Danny Robbins down on that lap by 2/10. Herman Stocci is on a fast lap. I'm going to watch Stocci here. I reckon he can improve.
Well, Stocci needs to find it, heading through that wonderful second section of track over the curves. And now looking towards the small kink right on braking into the left of 14 and 15 out on track into turn 16, and then 17 ends the lap out. So needs to find something here. 1:40 on the clock. He's got 2 laps if he needs them. Here comes Stocci over the line, finds nothing. Crucially, got to be worried about that driver behind. Jason Muscat is there just 1,000th back.
He is indeed. Jason Muscat in fact, if you look at their lap times, they're actually counted as exactly the same, 1:14.360. It's just that Muscat is counted as slightly further back. And Paul August Lana, wow, Lana there, going to the top of the order, 1:14.005. Again, just missing out on being the first driver in the 113s, but beats Thomas Vuk by 0.09 of a second. That's provisional pole with just 1 minute left on the timer.
That's called clutch. That's called crucial. No time improvement for Robbins as he goes through. No chance for Stocci to get out and set a lap time and be done. Hamlet out there on a lap. Vuk out there on a lap. And Vuk out there on a lap just behind Paul August Lana. So this is going to be a crucial battle to keep an eye out on. Those two will cross the line at a very similar time. Hamlet will cross behind that. 30 seconds mistake from Lana. Had to take a double take through that section. I doubt we'll see improvements from him as they go through. Jason Muscat moves up into 4th position on a 1:14.1, and suddenly that makes it 2 drivers in that 1:14.1 bracket as they now look to try and find a little bit of improvement. 10 seconds remain. I think Lana may just be short of the line here. 7, 6, 5, 4. He's going to be there. 3, 2. He will get another chance, and Vuk will not. So that's crucial. Vuk across the line does not find the improvement. Here comes Ben Hamlet looking for the time. 1:14.1 and blows the engine over the line, trying to find as much as he could. It did not work. Now you look back to the likes of Jason Muscat, who will cross the line a little bit quicker. Robbins crosses the line, does not find himself the improvement that he wants, but eyes on Muscat for the moment, heading himself through 13 into now turn 14 and 15 out on track. Has traffic in front though, and that's going to be hampering the lap as he tries to find the improvements, and it is that number 2 machine that is not being very helpful through the final corner, and we're using all of the road tack and a bit more, making the run to the line. I think Muscat may not find improvement here as Muscat crosses that line, and he does not. So that was not part of the plan. Lana, I think, can feel himself to be safe. We know that Stocci's lap probably will not count. Martin Antol crosses the line, does not improve from 8th position right now. Ignacio stays in 10th. Bolko stays in 11th position. Pasefko currently, I believe, has finished his lap and has got himself all sorted. Lana into the pits. Vuk into the pits as well. We remain on Tomasz Pasefko, who we believe has sorted his lap times out. We believe everyone has done their laps at this point in time. This is how the field will stack up then here in qualifying. It'll be Paul August Lana who will start on pole position. Thomas Vuk will go from 2nd. Ben Hamlet will start this one from 3rd with Jason Muscat 4th. Danny Robbins will go from 5th. Herman Stocci 6th. Greg in 7th. Ansel 8th. Caneo 9th. And Jose Ignacio will round out the top 10. We're going to step aside, though, here for a moment on World Pro Racing. We'll be back with a little bit more after this.
I know you've got a secret, like a child you wanna keep it, but your shiny eyes reveal the simple truth.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
To this, a Adria Raceway circuit, which is, of course, going to be absolutely fantastic to watch some racing action in these F4 vehicles, these Tatuus vehicles, which are going to be so interesting to keep an eye out on this circuit, built, of course, by Engineering Consult. Make sure to check them out as well. But we are just a few minutes away from the start of racing, a formation lap as well going to be worked on here too. So I think these drivers all need to be at their very level best for the way that they are working. Jake Sperry, Caitlin Penny here in the commentary box. And Caitlin, you talk about qualifying, that was a case of you raise the bar, how high can you jump? And everybody just jumping again and again and again, just trying to edge that bar forward just a little bit more, make sure that they're knocking. It's almost like that high jump thing where you look at people who go for the high jump world records and say, no, I just want to raise it by 1 centimetre.
Yeah, but they'll take 8 centimeters if they can get it. We're about to see drivers going for the absolute maximum that they have on board with them, and of course, Sir Jackie Stewart used to say that it was all about winning by the smallest margin possible, but that didn't stop him from winning by what, 8 minutes at the at Spa in '68. So yeah, these drivers are going to take all the speed they can get. They're going to absolutely go for it, and whatever the case, we're about to see a pure Formula 4 race. We have 18 drivers still with these tiny, very, very light, very close Formula 4 cars on this Adria circuit, which does encourage cars to go side by side with its many heavy braking zones and its many tight hairpins. And I'm expecting it to be an exciting and unpredictable race, one where possibly 5 or 6 drivers could win this.
Well, any number of drivers can win this. 18 drivers can theoretically win this, so it's not a case of just 5 or 6 can. I think every driver can. It's all about probability. But you talk about the drivers who now need to go out there and prove themselves. You had 6 drivers split by just, I believe, under 0.4 of a second in qualifying. It was a very, very close qualifying between everyone. They needed to be on their toes, trying to make sure that everything was going to be perfect for one flying lap. Now you turn yourself into a race brain. What are the differences, Caitlin, between a qualifying brain and a race brain?
In qualifying, you can escape to the pits if something goes wrong. In the race, you can't, and you lose everything. So as a result, you need to make sure that you don't make any big mistakes. In qualifying, if you spin, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, you've ruined that lap, but you've got other opportunities, providing it's not right at the end of the session. You can just go for it again. However, in the race, you just can't. Also, in qualifying, if you find yourself side by side with someone else on track, that's an unusual situation. And you do tend to end up with one driver giving way or another driver forcing the issue, because no one wants to go side by side in qualifying. However, in the race, of course, the whole point is to try to overtake the car in front of you, and it's very, very normal for people to find themselves in a position where they have to attack. So in terms of that, you just have to switch into race mode. You have to remember that those cars have every right, have the same right to be there as you do, and you've got to beat them fairly and cleanly.
Certainly do have to win fairly and cleanly as warm-up is complete. We will take you over to the starting grid for proceedings here today, and this is going to be a very, very interesting race that is going to happen. It will be 30 minutes plus any extended time on top of those 30 minutes, and this is how the grid will stack. Paul August Lana will start on pole position with Tomasz Wark in second. Ben Hamlet will go from third. Joining him alongside on the second row is Jason Muscat, as I get my word in a bit of a fuddle. Danny Robbins starts from fifth. Herman Stocci in sixth. Terence Grech will start from seventh, with Martin Antol in eighth. Filippo Caneo will go from ninth, and 10th position be Jose Ignacio as we get ourselves a formation lap getting itself underway. Caitlin, 11 through 17.
11th place is going to be Matteo Bolker, who got nudged out of the top 10 right at the end of the session by Filippo Canier, who of course we've already heard will be starting from 9th place. Nathan Missard will be starting from P12 because we've actually lost a driver. We did have 18 and we only have 17 now, so we'll have to work out, oh, it's Thomas Pasevko who is not going to be taking the start. That's a shame. So Mikhail Parry will be 13th, elevated 1 place due to that. Marco Holtzman will be P14, Matthew Bugea will be P15, followed by Nathan Vella, and then Miguel Enriquez will be rounding out the field. Thomas Pasevko has now rejoined the server, although I think it may be too late for him to actually take the start, which is a big shame. Obviously, some technical issues having a go at him, and as a result, he is not going to be taking the start.
Well, drivers not taking the start, drivers giving themselves a lot of room when it comes to warming up those tyres, getting the formation lap nice and ready. Paul Augustlana set a quick pace on that formation lap, and that, of course, does have the double-edged sword. Drivers will want to try and follow as closely as possible, but as they go and look for their grid slots right now, the problem is this. They look for their stall, they look for the right place to go out there to start to make sure everything's correct. But if they don't get it right straight away, then there's one big trouble. Those towards the back of the field can take as long as they like, and that will mean that the tyres will cool off more and more. It means that this start will just be a little bit more difficult. Waiting on Miguel Enriquez then to find himself on the grid slot, and he is. It's going to be a tough 30 minutes that these drivers are going to have. They've got to be right up there and trying to work as hard as they can. They race for pride here today, and they know they don't need to race for much more than that. Flagman ready. Let's get ourselves ready. Engine notes rise. And here at Adria, we are underway. Lana doesn't get the best start, already chopping and changing. They're in the middle of the pack, 3rd, 4th onwards as they go on into turn number 1. Wide line from Lana leaves the room for Tomasz Vach, but Hamlet holds off Muscat behind in 3rd and 4th. A spinner in the background, though. That wasn't part of the plan, and that is Ignacio, who has gone around in the early stages. He's not taking anyone with him as they break into turn 4 for the first time. Lana is clear, but they fight side by side for 5th place. Robbins finds a way past Stocci.
And 4 cars stopped there. Parry has come together with, well, actually, that was 1 car spinning and 3 cars stacking up and stopping to avoid them. So a little bit of chaos down at the back of the field. I believe there's not too much damage to any of the cars, although that was a little bit hairy there. So, Lene leading them around, followed by Vach, Hamlet, and then Muscat and Robbins, the top 5 at this point in time, as they come down to Torrentino for another lap. The back of the field's where you've got to be watching for the chaos on this opening lap, because there definitely seems to be a fair deal of it, although everyone taking it relatively carefully at the back now. Yellow flags flashing around the circuit, which is interesting because I don't see any hazards as it stands. But anyway, as we complete the end of the first lap, why is everyone? Oh, safety car.
Yes, absolutely. So time will be taken off for the flags as the safety car out there on track. So for that spin that we saw down at turn 4, that was enough to throw out the safety car. So they will take some time behind there and just sit and wait and keep the tyres up temperature. So effectively, the Corvette safety car will try and make its run through, but for the time being, it is Paul Augustlana who leads this race from Thomas Vach, Ben Hamlet in 3rd, Jason Muscat there in 4th position. The top 4 remain unchanged. Robbins in 5th, Stocci in 6th, Gret in 7th, and Ansel 8th. Holtzman has moved up 4 places up to 9th with Nathan Vella, who, reminder, started 16th. He's up inside the top 10, so that has been a very, very good start to the race for him, has been the big benefactor in this field, up 6 places. But time behind the safety car will be very, very beneficial to Paul Augustlana. He knows that this is not a lap certain race, but a time certain race. So time behind the safety car means that it's less time for their opponents behind to make the position.
So in terms of the instance at the start, it was Nathan Mifsud getting into the back of Felipe Canier. Unfortunately, it looks to me as if Mifsud just misjudged how early the cars ahead of him would have to brake for the hairpin and just plowed straight into them. So in the end, Canier had to stop because he was spun. Mifsud had to stop in avoidance. as did Bulker and Parry, and that's why those drivers involved. The incident with Jose Ignacio, it looks to me as if he turned over not knowing that there was a car on his inside, and that would be Mikael Parry there. I don't think Parry will have damage. I don't think Ignacio will either. I think if anyone has damage on this opening lap, it's probably going to be Nathan Mifsud, unfortunately. Interesting to see the safety car out. Oh, and Ben Hamlet has just crashed behind the safety car all by himself. He's made a big error, got a big swapper on, and he's crashed into the barrier. He's now got no front wing, and he's going to have to make a pit stop. So that is a silly mistake there from Ben Hamlet. And well, that's he's going to be beating himself up over that one. What I was going to say though is it's interesting to see that we have the safety car here. I'm not sure I've ever commentated a rFactor race which has had safety car enabled in the past. It can be a little bit glitchy in rFactor 2. It looks to be running smoothly for now. And the drivers just have to hold steady until the end of the lap. The lights are out on the safety. Wait, there are no lights on the safety car. Never mind. So I'm not sure if it's coming in this lap or not. It says 1 lap to go, but I'm not sure whether that means at the start of the lap or at the end of the lap.
Well, Ben Hamlet knows that he has made a very silly mistake. Drivers often think that weaving is easy. Keeping your tyres up to temperature is easy. Newsflash, it's not if you're not paying attention, which one Ben Hamlet wasn't, and as such, he will dive down to the lane with the safety car. So this will mean that Paul Auguslana will have control of the field once again, as he will look to get himself back to green flag running with a big advantage over Thomas Vark over the line. That margin is a second already, 1.4 back. Jason Muscat, they were not alert to the restart. Stochy was, though he's close to Danny Robbins, but he's not going to be able to make the move into turn numbers 1 and 2. Up to 3 and 4, they come along, and then once again, at this restart then, we are already a sixth of the way through this race as Robbins on the brakes very much got himself the time against Herman Stochy. He was not close enough to make the move up into turn number 4, and it's this middle sector of the lap, which is all about carrying momentum. We're not going to see many moves here.
There was another accident behind safety car, actually. Felipe Canio is in the pits at present, and that is because he was hit in the rear by Jose Ignacio behind the safety car. So several drivers just getting it very wrong, and either causing severe damage to themselves or to others. I wouldn't be surprised if Ignacio has some damage in that as well. He's currently running in 14th position. Hamlet exits pits in 16th. Canio is going to be down in 17th position, so some very badly affected drivers there. But as we come to the end of the first full lap of racing, it's going to be Lene leading from work, then Muscat, Robbins and Stocky at the order, and Nathan Mifsud's now in the pits, and I don't know what's happened to him because his car looks fine. It's a penalty. And that was applied by the live steward, so that's probably for the first lap collision.
It was the first lap collision, and that is not going to help Nathan Mifsud today. He's going to have a very long challenge to make his way back forward, but as they know, they've got to be very much on it. Double take through turn 4 for Herman Stochy. Suddenly Terence Grech in 6th place may have a shout here of getting close. For the time being, it seems that these drivers are giving themselves about a second's gap in between them at the moment. Not really too many drivers in place to make overtakes. Miguel Enriquez, maybe one of them, with Ignacio and Bolco in the battle for 11th, 12th and 13th on the road as they go into turn number 5. No chance of them making the move just yet, but ultimately this is a way to, oh my goodness me, I've just seen the biggest tank slapper I have seen in a very long while from Danny Robbins. He's done well to save it, and he continues on forward. But this is a race of fine margins. You make a small mistake here, fine margins mean you're going to lose seconds, maybe even handfuls of seconds.
Yeah, you'll notice that there's really not that much runoff around this track. It's all grass and then gravel as well. You do have a bit of runoff in the outs of turn 1 there, although around the rest of the circuit, especially where Danny Robbins went off, it is just grass and then Anchor. So yeah, unforgiving. But anyway, Felipe Canio is in the pits again. I expect he may be about to retire, unless he got a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Oh no, he's retired. There's also just been a stop-go penalty assigned to Jose Ignacio, and that will be for crashing into Canio behind the safety car.
That certainly will, and that will be really hurting him. He was in 13th position And ultimately now he will be effectively dumped to the back of the field in about 16th place. So Lana leads, Vark in second, Muscat third, Robbins fourth, Stochy fifth, Terence Grech looks like the one closest to making a move in 6th place. But the big difficulty is this mid part of the track is not really that conducive to overtaking here. So you've got to really work out how you can follow behind drivers in the mid to late parts of the lap to give you those runs down towards turn 1, down towards turn 4. It seems like for a lot of these drivers, they're spending all their time trying to catch up through turns 1 and turn 4. And whilst you don't get much of it, dirty air effect seems to be hampering the rest of the lap.
So anyway, Nathan Mifsud appears to have a big fan support in the YouTube chat, and unfortunately he is now down at the back of the order. Jose Ignacio there, stopping the car on entry to the pit lane. That's not what they normally mean by a stop-go penalty. It doesn't work like that. Well, I'm not sure he knows. Well, he stopped in the box now. They're going to hold him there for a bit, and he's going to drop right to the back of the order, I expect, judging by where Hamlet and Mifsud are now. Indeed, he does. So down to 16th position in that one. The closest fights on track at this point in time. Vark doesn't actually have that much of a gap to Muscat. They're relatively close for second position. Actually, Danny Robbins not that far back either, and neither is Stocky, Grech, or well, pretty much anyone. They're still in a long chain, although definitely I'd say any of those 4 drivers could be challenging for second in a relatively short amount of time. We've also got battles further down the order. Nathan Vella versus Matthew Bugea versus Taro Balco is a close one over 9th position, and then the 12th is pretty close between Enriquez and Parry as well. In fact, Enriquez running slightly wide there, so up and down the order not quite settled just yet, and as I say that, Balco gets 10th place from Bugea.
Well, he does, and he gets it done very nicely at turn 1. No arguments about it then. Enriquez trying to defend from Mikael Parry just behind, and Parry straight down the inside at turn 1 and 2. Gets it done, but there is a switchback opportunity at turns 3 and 4. Vella's fine in his position right now, but he goes wide. That will open the door up. Parry is okay in his move, but ultimately Nathan Vella looking a little bit tentative at the moment. Switch to the inside, cross the beams, Matteo Balco down on the brake, but ultimately just not enough room, not enough commitment to go out there and make it, so they'll stay too wide, heading towards 7, 8, 9, 10, and they will not get the move done there. A wise man waits then to try and hope that the position will change a little later on down the road. Gap at the front, seemingly 1.4 seconds it was at last checking. It seems it's been a lot more even this lap between Vark and Lana at the front of the field. That gap was up at 1.5 seconds, so a 10.5 improvement again from Lana means that Vark is looking backwards in his mirrors. The last thing he wants to do against Jason Muscat.
Vella just got a big tank slapper there. Balco had to check up to avoid him, and as a result, they both ended up losing a bit of time there. Now Balco's on the inside, and he's going to get 9th place much cleaner there. Does get it turned in and hooked up nicely, and yeah, that was a very clean move actually, completely textbook. Bugea there thought he'd have a look, but he was a little bit too far back, and now has to think about it setting. Oh, and Vella's going off. He won't need to. Sorry, that is Vella that's gone off there. It looks to me as if he tried to brake with 2 wheels in the grass, well, over the curb actually, and had to take avoiding action to lead, running into Balco. Now he's up alongside Bugea on the exit of Torrentino. He's got Mikael Parry right up behind him as well. Parry appears to have got away from Enriquez a bit, and that's brave. Oh, that's far too brave. Nathan Vella there getting up and over the sausage curbs. There was no gap there, and those sausage curbs are always going to send you for a flight if you do that. He got airborne, he spun the car around, and I don't know what else he thought was going to happen there.
I wonder if the suspension is damaged now for Nathan Vella. That was bold, it was brave, and he went for a line that did not exist. The door was always going to close on him. And just like that, Nathan Vella, this is a very, very long day now for you, and another long 18 minutes. He is able to continue, but that does change a lot of how this field stacks up for the time being. Vark still in second, Muscat third, Danny Robbins there in 4th position. Erman Stocci in 5th place is falling off the back of this train. 1.3 seconds back, same gap margin between Lana and Vark. So Stocci on his own is now finding himself in a little bit of no man's land because Terence Grech, who was starting to put the pressure on, is all of a sudden finding himself 1.7 seconds back off of Airman Stocci. So for Grech, he's in no man's land, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Very much nothing doing for them today, as they will have themselves 17 minutes of effectively Sunday driving.
I was impressed by how close Vok and Muscat were a couple of... and Vok's sideways. He got a big tank slapper on partway through the corner. He doesn't lose as much time as I thought he was going to, probably about 0.3 of a second at maximum. And it was about that, actually. But yeah, that looked as if it was going to be much worse. So Muscat's lap there, 0.2 of a second faster than Vok's. What I was saying is that Vok was actually having a proper swipe with him a couple of laps ago. Appears to have backed off a little bit, probably just trying to bide his time as we got a lot of the race still to go. And incidentally, Nathan Vella has now got a drive-through penalty. He's gone off the road in the pit lane, trying to serve that penalty, and that will be the collision we just saw where he went up and over the curb. Wait, no, that wasn't Vella, was it?
Well, Nathan Vella, either way, gets a penalty, so I do believe that he's found himself in all sorts of trouble, so he'll try and get himself back going again. In terms of the recovery of Hamlet, that puts him back up into 13th position. He's 8 seconds behind Miguel Enriquez, so we'll see how that gap seems to closing down the later on in this race that this one goes. But for the time being, 2nd and 3rd, the big battle at the moment, Vark and Muscat. Muscat has not been in a position to look for an overtake, has been stuck in that 4/10 dirty air window, and it has been looking for an opportunity to go out there, to attack, to go and make the move sorted. But ultimately, it has been a case of patience, and been seeing that Vark has been making mistakes. He knows that Vark is struggling underneath his pressure, but what he hasn't been able to do is capitalise. He spent 11 laps looking at that gearbox, and I'm not sure he'll be too happy about that.
Yeah, I correct myself. It was Nathan Vella who went over the shortest curves. Sorry, it's just that sometimes this happens quickly. I forget what's going on. Whatever the case, he serves his penalty. He's now down in 15th position. And we've had a mistake. Terence Grech's on fire. Terence Grech is on fire at the side of the road. His car has expired in big fashion. I don't know how that's happened. It may just be a random failure. That tends to happen when you shift down too many gears at once.
Engine.
So I wonder, and actually as he braked into the corner, shifted down far too many gears at once and just burst into flames. Big mistake from Terence Grech there. That may be a software issue. It can be sometimes. Whatever the case, he becomes our 2nd retirement of the race. Jose Ignacio now back into the pits, which is interesting. He hasn't got another penalty, so I'm not entirely sure why he's in the pits for another time. But whatever the case, exit the pits. That looked like a drive-through to me, and gets going again. So now anyway, that elevates Ben Hamlet back up to 12th position, elevates Nathan Mifsud to P13, and Nathan Vella up to P14 as well.
So Grech's engine decides it doesn't want to be an engine, it wants to be a very nice fireplace. So ultimately that will not be the way that his race wants to be ended, but Terence Grech, the day is done for him. That promotes Martin Ansel up into 6th place, and it is half on at the moment between 7th and 8th, because Marco Holtzman is being closed down by Matteo Bolco, who is absolutely flying at the moment. He's got the gap down to 1.3 to the man in 7th place, Holtzman. So he's got to be very cautious about the way that Matteo Bolco is going to be able to close down the gap. But 2nd, 3rd, and 4th is where the magic is at the moment, because those 3 drivers are pretty much line astern, waiting for the right time to go out there, to attack, to strike, to make the overtakes that are needed. And ultimately, it seems like nothing is forthcoming for one Jason Muscat, who again tucked up underneath, looking for a chance to overtake, and it's just not there right now.
The stream just picked up a quick 360 spin for Ben Hamlet. It's an easy place to do it because as Muscat gets up the inside of Vok and touches in there. Now that was pretty ambitious. I think he had to go for it because he misjudged the braking, went slightly too deep in, and knew that if he didn't commit, he was just going to run straight into the back of him and run into him anyway. He's lucky that one or the other of them didn't spin around, because that would have been very bad, and Danny Robbins could have got involved. He's right on their tail. I was just going to say, the corner where Ben Hamlet Hamlet just had his quick 360 spin, is a difficult one because you can run out over the AstroTurf with no issues whatsoever. However, as soon as you touch the grass, the car just flicks around, and that's exactly what happened to Ben. His mistake, and he's now even further back than he already was, and having a pretty wretched time. But anyway, yeah, that was very, very close there between Fuck and Muscat, and definitely got a few hearts racing.
And it's lost a lot of time. That gap's extended out over 3 seconds now for Paul August Lana at the front of the field, and a drive-through penalty for Nathan Vella. That will hurt even more. So he will have to try and get himself going forward. And I'm sorry, I've just read something that's already been read out there as the colours have just changed for me. But for the time being, changes of position could be happening in a couple of moments' time for 7th place, because Matteo Bolko has caught Marco Holtzman and is looking for the overtake at the inside of turn number 1 and 2. Might just be the place to get it done. Has a think about it. Oh, and he's left the door open here as Holtzman, and suddenly checked up. It was a wild look at an overtake, and suddenly they're side by side through 3 and 4. But Bolko has been given the position by Holtzman, who had no reason to fight him at that point in time, but that could have so easily have ended in an absolute disaster.
Absolutely, it could have done. Another very close moment. And this is the point in the race where drivers really start to go for it. They're possibly a little bit frustrated, maybe. But anyway, they get away with it, and Bolko is now through to 7th position. Holtzman right on his tail, although I don't expect he'll be able to stick with him for that long, since Bolko has actually been very, very fast the last few laps, and consistently about half a second or so faster every lap. With all due respect to Holtzman, into turn 1 again. Wach and Muscat, well, they were close, although luckily not as close as they were a couple of minutes ago when they had that light contact. And a good thing too, because I don't think many people's hearts could take that another time. And yeah, you can tell Muscat's still on the offensive here. He still thinks that he's attacking, and I think that's mainly to try to unsettle Wach, make him lose concentration, make him possibly feel the pressure, and that can often make people make just slight mistakes, which provide a gap for you to get through. But still, the gap between them just 0.4 of a second.
Well, only 4/10, half a second, so they go through 14 and 15 out on track, as they now make their way towards the final couple of corners. And Thomas Wach taking a much wider line. He's trying to open out the exit of the corner. It was a much shallower line there from Jason Muscat heading through, and this is what's hurting him into turn number 1. He's not opening out the corner the same way that Thomas Wach is. He's not getting the benefit draft through turn number 1 to go out there and make a move. He now has to wait all the way to turn 4, but again, wide on that exit means that the power can go down earlier from Thomas Wach, and this will be another couple of tenths of a second he will pull away as they get on the brakes into turn 4. So this is the big issue. They're down to the last 9 minutes of this race, so they don't have long. And I think if you're Jason Muscat, we've seen he's already gone for one move today, but now you're starting to look at this and go, well, am I happy with third place, or do I go for the 50-50 going for second? Barring a mistake, you have to say, Paul August Lana, he's been faultless.
He has indeed. He's built his gap out to 3.4 seconds. You very rarely see that in a car as light, slipstream reliant as a Formula 4 car. So for him to break away from the pack behind just shows you how his race pace really has been today, and his consistency absolutely phenomenal. If I look at the times quickly, ever since the safety car came in, oh my goodness, ever since the safety car came in, his lap times have all been separated by less than 2.5 tenths of a second. That is one of the most consistent drives I have ever seen in my life, and it's fast too, in the 114s every single time. He is lapping at qualifying pace. Now Muscat takes a look to the inside of Wach there on the exit of turn 1. Wach missed the apex and left it kind of wide, but goes defensive on this apex, and no way through for Muscat. But that was very That was a lot closer, definitely his best chance yet. And now he's going to have another look towards Torrentino, forces Vach to go defensive, forces him to go off the line. Can he get the switch back? No, because Bosch covers it off with his rear right tyre. Now this chicane doesn't tend to be an overtaking opportunity. Vela demonstrated why very nicely earlier on. And he's going to have to wait until the hairpins come again, probably down into turn 1, or maybe Torrentino next lap.
Well, it's all about where do you make the move, and Jason Muscat starts sliding the mid part of that lap, and all of a sudden that opportunity goes away once again on Tomasz Vach, and Vach slides it through the final corner, misses the apex, and here comes the opportunity that Muscat has been waiting 23 minutes to try and procure. Has he got enough of a run into turn number 1? He looks down to the inside briefly, gets in the mirrors, makes the half wiggle there, does Tomasz Vach. He is very much flustered, trying to find the temperature in the tyres, hoping he doesn't flat spot them too much. Robbins waiting in the wings, so is Herman Stocci. If anything does go wrong between these two in a battle for the podium, but again, heading through the left-handers, nothing quite there at this point in time. Other battle on track, Ben Hamlet has caught the back of Miguel Enriquez, and that is 8 seconds and a spin. He has managed to close back down on Enriquez as he looks to get himself up into 11.
Indeed, sir. Enriquez there drops down. Oh, and he's going off again. Yeah. He's going very, very wide into turn 1. And through goes Ben Hamlet up into 11th position, despite his spin a few laps ago. So Enriquez now down into 12th position. And anyway, continues on his way, about seconds behind the leaders as it stands. But talking of the leaders, Vach, and contact. Muscat there got that. Well, I think. Well, it seemed that Vach was going wide. They both missed the apex, and now you've got Danny Robbins getting involved as well.
Oh, perfect. Here comes
the side.
Nope.
Yeah, very close. And Muscat's going to run wide here. I reckon Robbins is going to... Well, he's not going to be able to keep it alongside Muscat. That looked like a good opportunity. But Muscat was able to get the power down around the outside. Now towards turn 3. And that's not a line that's going to work for Robbins there.
Nope, it's not going to work around the outside. It's very tough. It's over 180 degrees. It reminds you of the China turn 12-13 section. So tough. Get right and on the brake into the reverse of what is turn 6 Barber. No chance of that done for Danny Robbins. It does give Tomasz Vach, for the first time in a long time, a little bit of respite at second place at the moment. 0.7 of a second with 5 minutes to go on the clock, which proves to be a massive, massive margin, which you can be very, very happy with at this point in time. It seems that this is the only big battle out here on track, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And again, it is that wide line which Tomasz Vach is using, which is where Muscat is looking to make the move, trying to steal a position, hoping that he has to force Vach the other way around. That's where the troubles have been. But ultimately, again, this time, it has been good lapping from Muscat, which is pulling him back into the clutches of Tomasz Vach.
Indeed, this battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th is raging, and the timer has been escaping quicker than anyone could realise. We're down to just 3 or so minutes left before the timer ticks to 0, and Muscat knows it. He knows he's got to get a wriggle on if he's going to get up into that 2nd position. He's putting all sorts of pressure on Vach. Although I must say, with all due respect to Muscat, who's a very, very good driver and much, much better than me, he has made more mistakes than Tomasz Vach over the last few laps, especially. I would like it pointed out that I almost beat Muscat once in a race, but he overtook me on the final lap for 3rd place in a kart event. But anyway, now he's on the back of Tomasz Vach, and I know how Vach feels in this situation. He is going to be feeling all of the pressure. You can almost feel the driver breathing down your neck, and it's a very disconcerting situation for a defensive driver such as Tomasz Vach here. A lot of drivers say they prefer to be in the attacking position because it's just a much more pleasant feeling, even if it wields fewer points at the end of the race, although there aren't points for grabs here today, and Tomasz Vach is going to be defending what he can nonetheless.
Well, all he can is at turns 4 and 5. And again, Muscat close, but not close enough there with Danny Robbins just behind. Stocci waiting in the wings still as they go on. Holtzman is under pressure as well. 8th and 9th with Mikael Parry starting to close that gap down to 1.1 seconds. If he can get it done in the later stages, he will be very, very glad. But it all depends on the man at the front of the field, Paul August Lana, who has himself a commanding 4.7 second lead at the moment as he makes his way into 14 and 15 once again. Vach behind, under pressure, 2 minutes to go on the clock and just under. That is 2 laps to go here at Adria. And now all of a sudden, Lana knows that he's safe, but Tomasz Vach is not. Muscat and Robbins both want to make a move. 2 minutes to go, 2 laps to go. It's now all about, can Vach hold on? Muscat has been waiting and waiting and waiting. It's just not been there.
It really hasn't, but look how close he is there. That is ridiculously close. We've just had a spin from Matthew Gay. He's been off into the oh, bit of a lag spike caused that, I think. Yeah, it looked to me as if he lagged back a bit and just got collected by Ben Hamlet, who had nowhere to go, and began are down into 11th place with that. Hamlet up into 10th place. But yeah, so close between Vach and Muscat on this last lap, and they touch again, and Muscat goes around and he collides with Danny Robbins. That is so unfortunate for Robbins. He was completely the innocent victim there. Muscat got it all wrong and just spun into the back of Tomasz Vach, and when you touch the back of the car in an almost weightless corner like that, you're going to lose so much time, and they are both heavily damaged now, and that puts Herman Stocky up into 3rd place.
It does, and Muscat went up over the anti-cut as well. That was never going to be helpful either. Stocci was in the right place at the right time. A drive-through penalty then for Jason Muscat as he goes through. Robbins will not deal with the damage. He will now decide that it's time for him to do 1 lap without a front wing and try and hold on against Martin Ansel, who is there in what will be now 5th position in this race. So we'll keep an eye on that. White flag out, though, for Paul August Lana, who leads this race. We'll keep an eye out on Muscat, who is now out of the race, has effectively retired this one overall. But this has been a very, very difficult race for a number of reasons. 7th and 8th still on. We're between Parry and Holtzman, but Holtzman able to keep at bay at the moment, and wide goes Mikael Parry, and that will cost him his chance in towards turns 3 and 4. But Paul August Lana, he's done exactly what he's needed to do. Get pole position, go to the front of the field, and since the safety car, it has been Mr. Consistency that has done it once again. Nobody's been able to match him. He's not been challenged. He got a second off the safety car restart. Nobody could catch him, and he looks back and sees that nobody is in a month of Sundays of him as he makes his way over to the line. Paul August Lana takes the win at Adria in absolutely emphatic fashion. It'll be Tomasz Vach who will come home in 2nd place. Herman Stocci will Bradbury his way to a 3rd place finish, and he'll be happy with that. Danny Robbins will hold off 4th ahead of Martin Antol, who could not chase down come the end. Still on between Parry and Holtzman. It will need a dive for 7th and 8th position between them at the moment, and ultimately there will not be that dive, so Mikael Parry will not be chasing down Marco Holtzman come the end. A recovery drive for Ben Hamlet in 9th place, and it is on 11th and 12th as they both run wide between Mifsud and Enriquez. Enriquez may not have a line here to go down the inside. He'll try and pick it up off of the exit, and we may just see a drag race both into the grass trying to attack, and it's gone wrong for Enriquez. He smacks into the wall, and that pretty much sums up his race for him as he will do another donut 360. No downforce there, and in fact, why not take the best road out, turn your way back around and get yourself going. I would have taken the classy route and reverse your way over the line. You know that nobody else is going to be behind you. Enriquez will finish this one off in 12th place, but Caitlin, that was entertainment for 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I'd like to quickly point out there was another incident near the end there that we stream. It was Nathan Vella blowing the engine while going for a move on Ignacio going completely wrong and taking them both off the road. So that took Nathan Veller out of the race. He was classified 15th, and Ignacio finished a lap down. But what an absolutely wonderful race from Paul August Lana there. After the safety car came in, the most he deviated from his fastest lap of the race was just 0.3 of a second. That is supreme consistency, and I have to say, one of the best drives that I've ever had the pleasure of commentating in sim racing. How do you stay that concentrated for a half-an-hour race in a car? Absolutely wonderful. Great battle for second as well, until it all went wrong. Wach definitely deserves that second place. Stocky did well to keep out of trouble and finish third. And yeah, absolute excitement here at Adria.
Well, confirmation of classified results. Paul August Lana takes it in 30 minutes and 49 seconds. His margin of victory, 5.7 seconds from Tomasz Vark. Herman Stocci finishing third with Danny Robbins fourth. Martin Antol would come home to a top 5 finish. Matteo Bolko finishes 6th on a quiet drive with Marco Holtzman in 7th, holding off Michael Parry to the end in 8th place. It will be Ben Hamlet after crashing under the safety car who would get 9th, and a top 10 finish is there, managing to sort itself out. But what we do have available here at World Pro Racing is the ability to talk with driver interviews. First and foremost, of course, you have to talk to the race winner, and that, of course, is Paul August Lana. Paul, welcome to the commentary box, and, well, let's talk about just how easy that race seemed to be from you. The safety car came out to the surprise of many. You managed to get yourself an ability to walk away after that safety car restart. It seemed everyone behind you wasn't alert to the fact that the pace car was coming in.
Yeah, I think I get kind of lucky there. I wasn't sure if the safety car was going to pit or not, because he started to drift or doing something weird things.
Well, the car was drifting, the car was trying to deal with itself, but let's talk consistency value, because all of your times were within a couple of tenths of a second of each other, so you really just found yourself in a zone that you really didn't find yourself in an ability to break out of. It gave you the opportunity to break away by 5 seconds come the end.
Yeah, I think I just didn't let myself to make a mistake. I had, as we can see, I had 4 tenths better qualifying time. I wasn't pushing so hard, and I know that other guys wasn't so consistent.
Well, you were looking for consistency, and more importantly, you now look yourself over towards 2020. What lines up in store for Paul August Lana?
I'm not sure yet what comes in 2020, but we will see.
Something. That's a very good option. But before we let you go, any shout-outs, any sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank? Who gets it done for Paul August Lana?
Really nobody. Just myself and a couple of my friends having fun.
Well, Paul August Lana gets it done for Paul August Lana. That's what we can work out from all of this. Second place went to Tomasz Vark. He stood by with Caitlin Penny.
Indeed, Tomasz, can you hear us? Tomasz, you're muted. I'm not sure if you know.
Either way, we've got someone in third place, Caitlin, that you can interview, and that's Herman Stocci.
Okay, indeed. We'll start with Herman Stocci. So Herman, can you hear us?
Yes.
Much better, much better. Okay, so Herman, you very much came through the field in that one. You kept it clean, you kept out of trouble, and on top of that, you did appear to have some quite serious race pace there. How did it look from your point of view?
Well, it could be much better. I don't have much experience with open wheelers. I'm more of a GT guy, so I try to be as clean as possible and try to stay close to the guys in front, and actually it pays.
Indeed it did, and you ended up picking up third at the end there after the 2 cars ahead of you came together. What did you see of that battle, and did you expect that you could have got involved sooner?
I don't know, honestly, but they had a really good pace, so in the end I was expecting some issues in the front. So
still, even so, you would have finished place, but you absolutely deserved that third through keeping it out of trouble. So, do you have any shout-outs? Anyone that you want to thank for your performance? Or
oh yes, of course. I want thank my friends of the Salottino and also my sponsor, Drive Game City.
Thank you very much, Herman. That was a really good job. Incidentally, we cannot get Tomasz Vok in because his Discord is messing up. So our apologies about that. So I'm going to hand over to Jake Sperry to finish the broadcast. But yeah, thanks for the interview, Herman.
Well,
welcome.
Herman Stocci, who finished off in third position as he gets himself all nice and situated, happy with a podium, but a big finish then to a casual Wednesday, so to speak. But if you like casual Wednesday, there's more on offer for very serious Saturday, of course, with the finishing off of a big World Pro Racing GT3 Masters season, which it could go absolutely any one of a number of ways. Make sure you check out for a 2-hour of Le Mans and make sure that you get yourself involved and watching that one here, of course, on World Pro Racing. But a massive thanks, of course, to those who get it done. Engineering Consult were absolutely fantastic, of course, and the channel sponsors, Gaming Malta, Visit Malta, and Melita as well. This has been a casual Wednesday with the Tatuus GT4s at Adria Raceway, and we will see you very soon. I've been Jake Sperry, that's been Caitlin Penny, Justin Mifsud, Adrian Fagayo, and George Muscat as well. It was Lana's day. He'll be very happy with his end to a December.
Like a child, you wanna keep it, but your shiny eyes reveal the simple truth.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.